The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on January 2nd, 2024.
It's time now for Business Matters, brought to you by Mokulele Airlines. Now here's your host, Pam Tumpop. Good morning, Pam. How are you today?
Hey, good morning, Gary. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Did you have a wonderful New Year's Eve?
I was here at the radio station with my dog. He doesn't like fireworks, so. But yesterday was a beautiful day, though. It was, nice and sunny and cool, nice cool breeze. It was a great day at my house.
It was a beautiful New Year's Day up here in Pukalani as well, and we had one of our 4 dogs we were nursing as well, skittish and hiding under my desk.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you had a lovely evening. Thank you so much for all you do for our show, and to you and Ko'oi. We wish you and the team blessings and best wishes for a great new year. And
So it's a whole new year, start of a new life.
New year. A new year, new life.
That's
That's
it.
so true. Well, thank you so much for all you do. And just to all of our guests listening, Happy New Year to you and your families. This is a great time of renewal, a time to find additional strength and positivity and to move forward with those goals that you've had on your plate. For the Chamber, this is going to be a very busy year. We have 2 really key things that are very important to us right now. Our top 2 priorities are housing solutions, something that we've been working on for many years. We did our first forum in 2017 and one in 2019, and economic development and diversification. So it's really time that we start moving forward on both of those fronts, and something that we have been doing. And we're also very excited that this week kicks off the Maui Economic Recovery Commission, which we are a part of, along with many others, looking at Maui's recovery. So we're really excited about the work that's ahead of us this year to improve our community, to give our families some stability and some normalcy, and get people in housing, and diversify our economy to strengthen our overall economic health. So we will be talking about a lot of those topics this year, but this morning we're going to talk with our council chair, Alice Lee from the Maui County Council, and we're going to talk with a small business owner, Christina Begtici of Maui Halia, and we're just going to have a little bit of fun this morning. It's great to ring in the new year with council chair Alice Lee. She has held the chair of the Maui County Council seat now for a period of time. And prior to that, she held the council seat for Wailuku, Waihe'e, and Waikapu residency area. And, before the current term, Chair Lee also served for 10 years on the council from 1989 to 1999. So she is an awesome parliamentarian and very well versed in process, and is a great leader. She has also served as the former Director of Housing and Human Concerns for the County of Maui from 1999 to 2006, which gives us great breadth as we move forward into solutions in that area. And she has advocated for key initiatives affecting the quality of life on Maui. So let's welcome Council Chair Alice Lee. Good morning, Alice. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Pam, and everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How was your New Year's Eve?
Well, it was interesting. I felt like I was in the middle of a minefield that night, and I think that night was I've experienced more fireworks than ever before, I think. And it's really too bad, because I had to spend most of my time with my pets because they were scared to death. And so I stayed with them, sat with them from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning. So that was my New Year's Eve ritual. But I'm glad I haven't heard of any serious accidents or or fires or damages. But, something really has to be done about fireworks. Unfortunately,
we
we've been
too
trying
saw a
to do
lot of
that
that
for
this month.
years. And as you know, the key to controlling fireworks would be to enforce, the illegal fireworks people. And unfortunately, we don't have the police department is short 100 officers. So it's very, very difficult to deal with this situation. Unless, of course, we, even if we passed an outright ban, again, enforcement would be key. But I hate to start off on a negative note. There's a lot of positive things that we need to, that we look forward to in the coming year.
Well, I think that I'm glad you shared, because so far 3 out of 3 of us have had dog issues, and what I will say is those that just sound like bombs, just sound purely like bombs. You don't have the actual joy of the fireworks, just the loud booms. We had so many more of those this year, and one of 4 of our dogs was really frightened, but it still means you're nursing the dog all night. You're caring for the dog who's literally shaking and terrified all night long. So, I think it is something that we do need to look at as a community. And there used to be ways where we did fireworks in big places where we could all join together and go to a central location and just have so much fun. And I so miss doing things like that at War Memorial and other areas. So I do want us to look at that. But like you said, we have so many things going on right now. And really, this is such a time when we are pivoting with our community, given the devastation of the wildfires. And I wanted to start with something that, you led, helped lead from the county council side, which was the county council had their own listening sessions on the wildfires. And I wondered if you could share what were the top concerns, maybe the top 5, or feel free to share more, but just some of the really key things that came out of those listening sessions.
Well, as you know, we had a number of meetings on the west side, and we continue to have meetings in our chamber regarding the effects of the wildfire. And even today, this morning, we will, in the DRIP committee, which is chaired by Member Tamara Paulton, we will be going over the matter of the Oluwalu landfill, which is a very, very contentious issue.
Yeah.
And so it's ongoing. The issues are ongoing, and primarily due to the magnitude of the effects of the fires. I mean, this is historically, we've never experienced something like this in Maui County. So as far as the feedback we've had input from the community regarding the wildfires and what priorities are from the community, I would say the top one is financial security and recovery. I think those who lost everything, personal possessions, everything, are going to be dealing with this for years to come. And we want to support them as much as possible. So that's one, financial recovery and stability. Secondly would be housing. And it's not necessarily in this order for everyone, but these are, of course, some of the top, I would say, themes that we derived from our conversations and our hearings with the members of the community. Housing, affordable housing is another one. Of course, that was a top issue even before the fire, but now it's exacerbated. And so that's another one. And then, of course, people want their jobs. They need jobs. And so we need to help them in that direction as well. But while all of this is going on, we have important issues, environmental issues, cultural issues, physical infrastructure issues. So I would say physical infrastructure would probably be in that top 5. because we need to restore water service, sewer service, etc. So physical infrastructure is highly important. And then finally, economic diversity, because, and I wouldn't restrict their concerns to these five. There are a lot more, but these stand out. And economic diversity, so that we, and you know, I've advocated this, and I believe, advocated this, to try and move away from an over-reliance on the visitor industry. Yes, keep the industry, but not to the extent that we have over-relied on it, because we need diversity for stability, for purposes of stability. So that's
we
something
just don't
that's
have the
not
community
directly under our control. That's, private industry is, we rely on small and large businesses to help us create that diversity. Government's job primarily is to ensure that the proper infrastructure is in place. Because if you want people to come and start new businesses or industries here, we have to have the housing. And in order to have the housing, you have to have the infrastructure. So all of these things are primary responsibilities of county government. And that's what we try to focus on, even though we have to deal with fireworks and everything else, from soup to nuts. And but for me personally, I support the community in all that they're trying to achieve. But my top priority is paying the bills and keeping the lights on. And I'm very serious about that. Very. People, the general public doesn't realize the cost of the devastation.
Yeah.
And
No, that's very true.
we have thousands upon thousands of people suing the county. And this is, we're not talking about, small, random lawsuits. We're talking about class action lawsuits. And if you add everything up, that amounts for thousands of lawsuits. So I'm very, very careful about trying not to invite additional lawsuits, because we have to pay this immense bill ahead of us. Hopefully with the help of FEMA and the federal government and the continued support of the state. But that is where my concern is, because in order to assist and help the people, the community, in their priorities, we have to come up with the money. Because
the many don't understand that the county is self-insured.
Pardon me?
Many don't understand that the county is self-insured. So that we don't have, it's not like we've got a policy we're going to lean on and someone else is going to pay.
Yeah, right. Nobody's going to help us pay lawsuits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in business, for example, you have insurance that would cover that, but the county is self-insured.
Yeah, we're self-insured, but the self-insured doesn't begin to cover.
Yeah.
I mean, if everybody won their lawsuit, then we'd be pretty much broke.
Yeah, that is my
from
the beginning.
People want transportation right away. They want something right away. But they don't realize that I'm hoping that we'll have the money to satisfy that.
Yeah.
So that is the reason why my main concern is that we are financially sound and solvent. That is my number one concern.
Yeah. No, that's really important, and people don't realize the state is self-insured as well. So there's no big corporation or big policy behind it that has those resources. It's the resources.
Yeah, absolutely not. We do not have
resources for solutions.
We do not have any kind of policy that covers thousands of lawsuits. We don't. Just don't.
Yeah. So every payout is using the same resources we need for the solutions. Move us
Right.
forward.
And then
So
when people complain about the visitor industry, yes, they've caused a lot of, traffic issues and cultural, I suppose, areas of, desecration or disrespect. You know, yeah, there's a lot of negative to the visitor industry, but on the other hand, we have a $1 billion budget. Over half of that comes from the visitor industry. $534 million of the 1 billion. And 40% of that comes from short-term rentals. So the ones that pay the highest are short-term rentals, timeshare, and the hotels. And believe me, they pay dearly. So we have to be really careful. It's a delicate balance we have to maintain. On the one hand, we don't want to continue to over-rely on the visitor industry. On the other hand, we need to find other businesses to replace some of that income from the visitor industry if we are going to begin to try and diversify and have a wider range of a revenue base. So those are the kinds of issues we deal with every day. And
that's right.
so when people try and, say, okay, what is your top 5? It's hard. It's really hard to say what's the top 5, because before you can do the top 5, you got to do the number 1. And how do you pay the bill? How do you pay for housing? How do you pay for physical infrastructure? How do you pay for the removal of debris? How do you do all of those things? Yeah.
Well, I think if we can have people think of it like their home, right? I mean, it would be very hard to live in the home and to cook and do all the things you do if you can't have electricity or water. So, I mean, and again, a lot of people don't realize that when our county and state are self-insured, it's the same pocket of money. So, we, there are a lot of lawsuits. There is a lot of injury and hurt. And yet it's at a time when we're trying to meet all of those needs of the community out there and address those priorities and help them get established and settled and secure in their housing and normalcy with their jobs and get everything back and get to that diversity that we, like the housing crisis, our diversity is something, we did a good job. We leveraged off the visitor industry and created a ton of jobs. We just don't have the residency to sustain all those jobs without the visitors. So we definitely need that diversity. But all of that, every bit of that is also taking investment. So you're absolutely right. That it's a very delicate and it's going to be a very challenging balance as we move forward.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that we can stay together. We continue on to strengthen unity, and we need to just remember that we need to work together and understand that all of our expenses come from basically the same pot of money.
Yeah.
So when we talk about spending money for homeless, we're also talking about the same pot of money for mitigating climate change. We're also talking about the same pot of money for physical infrastructure, water, sewer, roads, parks. So, I don't know if people understand that we have one budget, and all of the expenses come from that one budget. So as we go through, the recovery period, I pray for people's understanding that we wish we could pay for everything, every request, but it's literally impossible because we don't have an unlimited budget. So, but we're trying so hard. The county council is trying so hard to make ourselves available and accessible to the public so that they don't feel abandoned or left out or unheard.
Yeah.
We hear them. We try everything to go out to the community in every way possible, not only physically, but on TV, on the radio. We've had press conferences, press releases, everything we could think of to make sure that people know that we want to hear from them. And so
I think
today
you
is
folks have done
no
an
different.
amazing job in that.
Today is no different than what we've been doing regularly since the beginning of the term, and that is to hear people's concerns about Oluwalu.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge issue. That's a major issue, and we have to listen to all sides. Yeah.
No, and this is going to continue. This is going to be, I really hope, as you point out, a uniting year. We really need, with all these tough decisions and with limited budget, we're really going to need to come together. And, and I think that the other thing is, and it is a lot about communication and understanding. I know I was on a council meeting the other week, and you had a priority issue that you had to address by a certain timeline, and there were too many testifiers. Keep going the way we were going. But once we understood, wait, this is really critical. If we continue to testify, we're going to miss a deadline to address this really important issue. And then people went, okay, never mind. We'll testify a different way. We'll submit it in writing, and we won't testify so that you have time to do it. And I think that this is the time where we're going to need great flexibility and understanding, because there's so much to address.
Yeah, that's true, and it's kind of challenging to secure people's understanding, especially in view of the fact that they're angry and probably even bitter about what's happened to them and their community, And so maybe they don't hear us all the time when we say, could you please understand in that particular case, we had a deadline of 12 o'clock noon. In order to meet the sunshine law requirements for the following meeting, we had to post the agenda by 12 noon. And if we didn't, we would have missed the posting deadline. And I believe there was an issue having to do with taxes and other important matters that were very time sensitive. So these things will come up from time to time, but I guess people don't understand it. We've had more meetings ever. We've had a lot of, we've had committee meetings more than usual. We've had council meetings and special council meetings more than usual. So we've had a whole slew of meetings, and if ever we say we have to, stop testimony by 12 noon or something like that, it's not because we are trying to convenience ourselves. We're not. It's us trying to meet some kind of legal deadline. And so, I'm glad you brought that up because, I guess some people were angry that they didn't have a chance to talk when they wanted to. Or they could have continued talking after 12. That would have been okay.
Yeah, and I'll just say from I didn't personally understand what the system dynamics were exactly that you were going through. So when there was a comment, if some have to need to leave and I want to testify now, then we'll do that. And I had to leave. So, but then when I heard, okay, but and then a couple people testified, and then it was like, well, there was still too many of us who had other appointments in the afternoon. So then it was like, oh, okay, I get it. I didn't get it the first time, but I get it now. You don't have, if even 10 of us took time to say we can't stay, it was going to put you over the limit. At that point, then it was like very clear. Okay, this doesn't work. Don't be angry. This is the council's doing everything they can to meet this deadline, and it's a really important deadline. So then we just have to say, fine, recognize you can submit your testimony in writing and do that. And we still have other avenues, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, I know it was difficult that day for some people to understand why we were asking folks to come back and testify because we had a deadline. But I hope that you didn't consider that deadline to be frivolous because we're talking about the end of the year, and there's some drop-dead things that happen at the end of the year. And this was a highly sensitive deadline. Unfortunately, I mentioned it at the beginning of the meeting, but if I continued to bring it up every time, I would be cutting into other people's time for testimony. So it was difficult for those who chimed in, after the start of the meeting. They didn't probably hear that it was a deadline. So that made it worse.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I always apologize for that. But honestly, we were up against a very tight deadline, and it was for the public. It wasn't for anything for the council.
No, that's it. I mean, we're going to have a lot of tough priorities coming up, and sometimes those things are going to happen. And we're going to have to just hang tight, submit written, find a different way. And there are different ways to be able to provide you testimony. But I think right now during this time, I think it's a good example of you folks did your best to try and get it in. I know there's a lot more testimony than was anticipated, and we're just going to have to make modifications and be really flexible because there are so many critical priorities now. And as you say, there's so many issues that there's certain timelines and different legislative things that things have to happen on a certain in a certain framework. So anyway, I thought you handled it as best you could. Honestly, there really wasn't more that could be done because we had to get to what was critical at that point.
Yes, yeah. Again, I appreciate everybody's yours and everyone's understanding, because we don't do this on purpose. A lot of what we see
I know.
is put upon us at the last minute.
Well, speaking of that,
we'll get requests
as
from
we're moving forward to address
at
all
the
these
last
concerns,
minute,
and
they're getting
I know
requests from
the mayor is putting forward.
At the last minute,
he's going to be working on his budget,
notices,
and there's going to be
and
new priorities and legislation. What are some of the things? How is the council helping to address some of the concerns, or how are you working with the mayor, given some of the challenges we're going to have with this budget, and as you point out, some of the lawsuits and other things that are going to impact the solutions that we can put forward?
Well, for one thing, what we've been accommodating the mayor on his every request for special council meetings, and his every request to take up certain urgent items. So we do that on a regular basis. We don't let politics interfere with the flow of business. So that's one, and that's not easy because everybody has different schedules. The county council, it's like we have to all be available at the same time, which is very difficult on a regular basis because they have constituent work to do, and so they meet with the public themselves on their own. And this last minute stuff that we do on the council level interferes with their schedules. So it's not all that convenient for the members. So, but we try really hard to accommodate the mayor and the administration. We try to pass ordinances, and so it's not only scheduling, but passing ordinances that is needed, whether it's tax exemptions, whether it's budget amendments. All of those things are reviewed quickly and moved quickly, and because of this crisis situation. And
Yeah.
We ourselves have come up with, as a result of having so many community meetings, we're keeping track of what the concerns are and trying to address them in individual committees. So in the coming months, you'll be seeing changes as far as proposed legislation. However, as you know, the budget process consumes practically the first half of the year. So from March, April, May, June, almost everything is suspended in deference to the budget work. So if we need to get something done, we have January this month, February, and half of March to quickly move other legislation other than budget. So those are the things we're working on. But for me, besides making sure we have enough money to pay the bills, the second thing I think for housing, it's not just housing, okay? People don't understand that housing requires water and sewer capacity.
Right.
So when people look at housing, people have to make it a package deal because you can't have one without the other. Yeah. And also, the other component to a successful housing policy is a reasonable permitting policy, a reasonable permitting process. So the permitting process needs to be overhauled because it's so shackled with regulations that projects have difficulty moving out of the queue. And this is a result of what's been done over time. So it's an accumulation of over-regulation. And so that has to be slowly untangled. There really has to be untangled. Because the housing problem, the solution for West Maui, to me, are these things. One, ask for help with short-term rental people to convert to long-term on a voluntary basis. Secondly, to have to build at least 1,500, if not 2,000, modular homes, most of which need to be on the west side. Yeah. So the modular homes. Third, move the projects out of the queue. Figure out some kind of temporary permitting process that allows simultaneous compliance. So we have a whole bunch of projects in the queue. Then we also have projects that are waiting for occupancy. That's crazy. These we would save everybody a lot of money if we just move these projects forward. Find a way to do that. But you got to realize, I'm not blaming the department because everyone is short-handed.
Right.
So you got to go with outsourcing. A lot of the review has to be outsourced.
Yeah.
And then finally, the legislation we passed having to do with the Ohana Assistance Program is also going to help. Help with the housing crisis not only in West Maui but throughout Maui County. So if you work on that package alone, you can solve the affordable housing project in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I thought it applies to me too, currently, but I thought it was good. There were some people who also testified on that portion for farm dwelling that they
we took care of that,
but live somewhere else.
We added, in the after we heard that testimony, I proposed an amendment to allow for an addition to I think there's a restriction of 1,000 square feet on the additional farm dwelling, right? So the main dwelling doesn't have a limit, to my knowledge. So you can add to the main dwelling an accessory dwelling. If you're because you can have only two dwellings: the main dwelling and the accessory dwelling, yeah, on a farm lot. Yep,
Yeah.
2, right? Okay, so you would, the way the ordinance is set up, you can add to your main dwelling. So the idea
yeah.
is not to, we're not interfering with the code. We're following the code as is. The Ohana Assistance Program allows for a grant of money up to $100,000
Yeah, that was great.
if you decide
moved it
to either build an accessory dwelling or add to your current unit another, an extension, essentially an extension, which you can rent out. So we've tried, we've listened to all the concerns, and we've tried to accommodate the public. And, the idea of all of this, though, it has to be implemented. And implementation takes people. And if we don't have enough people, we have to do something about it. And so outsourcing is one solution. The other solution is revamping the whole hiring process. We're having difficulty recruiting and retaining folks, and a lot of it is because we're not competitive. We can't compete with the private industry. So we need to take a good look at that.
Yeah, I think that's very true too. Well, you're absolutely right. I was it was that day that you were talking about the Ohana Sisters. I was thrilled to see movement to take the award possibilities from $50K to $100K. That makes a big difference because, as you point out too, there's still infrastructure and other things that have to go with that. So, but that was a huge advance on that, and a great program. And I really appreciate that you said, that you've made modifications there. And then the other thing was, some people were saying that they had farmland that they could put, farm housing on, but it was the way the bill was crafted was you had to live on there. Some people had farmland that they didn't actually live on, but could make available. So, but it was really great solutions that were put forward. I'm glad that you added that other caveat as well, because all of these things will add up. But we do have a lot of farm development down in Maui as well, some other places on the west side. But we, like you, so we support everything you said. We definitely think it's okay to ask on a voluntary basis for short-term rentals to help. We think CNHA and others have good programs, so we're trying to get that word out. But we need everything in. We need to build the modular homes. We need to get projects out of the queue. We need right now, and we have for a while. This is not a new crisis, but now it's an exacerbated crisis. We need to get solutions in place. So I appreciate everything you mentioned. Real quick,
Pam, before we close, I just wanted to clarify something. One of the reasons why we weren't ready, nor we may not be ready ever, I'm not sure, to allow for the Ohana Assistance Program on property that is not occupied by the owner. The reason for that is we really do not want to increase the possibility of short-term rentals. And this is what
totally understand that.
That's the reason for it. And we put a lot of thought into that bill, and that's the reason for it. We just don't want a continued proliferation of short-term rentals.
Totally understand that. What I liked in the bill, though, that I thought curbed that was your deed restriction. That was the restriction on use and 10 years. I thought, and I wouldn't have problems if it was expanded, but I thought that was good and that could help. But I totally hear that concern, and so I appreciate that, so that we could think about that more, or not. but I was thinking the deed restriction was great, and that it was required that you had to use it for long-term housing for residents. Let's talk. We just have a couple quick minutes, but let's talk a little bit about economic diversification and development. Is there any top economic ideas? I know that again, the administration is going to come up with this, and but there's been times where the council has supported, but in your budget request, funding for additional economic development ideas. Is there anything that's top of mind for you in that area?
Well, I've asked Michelle McLean, who works for our office, who's a fantastic analyst and overall anything. She has all the experience in planning and used to work for Council Services years ago as well. I asked her to look into the CEDS report. That's the Comprehensive Economic Development Report, and to see how we can implement it more efficiently. And we generally ask Maui Economic Development Board to assist with that. And this time, I specifically asked if maybe CNEK and the Council on Native Hawaiian Advancement, which is not only for Native Hawaiians, but for everybody. Kuhio Lewis, I think, is a very up-and-coming, innovative, creative kind of a guy with regard to economic development. I'm wondering if they might be another, instrument of change in terms of economic development and diversification. So, do they need funding to pursue other industries and research other technologies, etc.? That is how I hope to move forward in the upcoming budget. We need those people who are already in the business to do the business. I would hate to see us use any economic development money to spread it so thinly that we can't get much, get solid, long-standing results. So, yeah, this is my hope is what I just said is to work with people who are already successful in the business of economic development to keep going and see how we can change plans into reality and concrete plans. So that's what
I remember Michelle was surveying people, and she called us, and I spent probably an hour and a half with her, which was awesome. But I think that's the right plan. Is where is the movement on the economic development and expanding where we're successful and exploring new avenues, because there are ways to continue to branch off of other industries, like we did with the visitor industry, to create meaningful returns on our investment. I mean, I think the Maida Valley County Festival is a great example of that. We've got a great ROI for the county's investment, and we need to look at those things and see where we've got a measurable impact.
Right. And how do we replace, $200 million worth of income from the visitor industry? How do we do that? That
Exactly.
I'd give that goal to anyone. And how do you replace $200 million? If you can do that, let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's not the hotels. It's really not the hotels by themselves. It caused a lot of the intrusion into, neighborhoods. It's those short-term rentals that have been really the menace. And I have nothing against the owners, but it has turned out that way. The hotels at least are confined to certain areas. Short-term rentals are all over the place. And so, but before, we could phase them out, we really would have to find something else.
Well, and I know I just came back from Japan, and I know Paul Brubaker had made a comment years ago, especially when we were talking about when all the rental cars during COVID were gone and shipped off the island. And at a certain point, as traffic started coming back before we really had the reopening, meaning residents were moving around more, people were saying, "Oh, traffic's coming back," but it wasn't necessarily visitors. We have a lot more cars these days per household than we used to have. And what's interesting was when you're in Japan that to buy a car, you have to be able to show that you can keep that car off the street and that you've got a parking place for it. And if you don't have a parking place for it, you don't have the car. But of course, they've got amazing train systems there that are phenomenal. But it's interesting just to see different solutions and to look at how we can deal with some of the infrastructure and congestion differently.
I think that's a very interesting idea, worth, studying. But at the top of my head, I can tell you, we can't, unlike Japan, people have rights, property rights in America. So, but, whatever we can do to me, incentivize people, how do we do that rather than, just more regulations? That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I appreciate the conversation on incentivization versus, again, people do have property rights and we're trying to ask them to help. And there are many ways we can help. And I know that a great deal in terms of, for example, the short-term rental, a great deal has been done to better understand the industry. We're trying to help government, through the governor's office and mayor's office, work with the industry because we have professional managers and people who are employed by that industry. But with some of the new ways to bring up some of the cost share that government can do on the housing that didn't touch the income that they were, making before, looking at how the solutions can be modified, seems to be working. And we're hearing more people are signing up for the program. So we'll be excited to see what we can do to continue that momentum and bridge some of the gaps and unite government and some of the solutions so that we're encouraging people in a way where we're not having to talk about hammers and sticks and things, but see how we can voluntarily get people enrolled in the programs because we're one community and everybody wants to help out.
Yep. It's been great chatting with you, but I have to get ready for the drip committee.
Thank you so much, Alice. I know we've gone long today, and actually I am going to reach out to see if we can get Christina Medici to come on next week. We're wanting to talk to her about her amazing business and what she's doing. There's just been so much going on with the wildfires and the tremendous work the county council has been doing. Thank you for all that you're doing. I know this new year is going to bring a lot of extra work. This is going to be a tough year as we all hunker down and pull together with flexibility and hopefully grace. But thank you so much for all that you and the council members have been doing to meet the urgent needs.
And thank you to Pam. I know you and Amber and the rest of the members of the chamber have been very helpful and very supportive of all of us in government, plus all the people in Lahaina and our community in general. And thank you for hanging in there yourself, keeping us on our toes, keeping us looking for better solutions to some of our problems. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, blessings and best wishes to you all. Please share our New Year's wishes with the council and the DRIP committee today, and we'll have you on again soon. We'll do regular updates.
Okay, very good. Happy New Year to you and yours. Okay, aloha.
Thank you. Aloha. Well, folks, this is going to be a tremendous year, and there are so many things happening, and this Friday on January 5th, we're going to start off with the Maui Economic Recovery Commission. This is going to be a very important commission where we are uniting people from throughout Maui County, as well as key people from the state and business owners, some from Oahu, but who also have business operations here in Maui, and just bringing a broad group of people to really look at our economic recovery and diversification and how we build in resiliency. And as Council Chair Alice Lee brought up, this is a very challenging time because there are so many needs, so much infrastructure, that there is a balance between how we leverage county funding with state funding, with federal dollars that can come together. And it's going to be tough because, again, the county and the state are self-insured, and there are a number of lawsuits, and there have been great losses that people have had. And at a certain point, what people need to realize is we're going to have to look at some solutions, especially in the near term, that generate new and more revenue. Because, again, with so much revenue and so many, not only loss of visitor industry revenue right now, as we've seen closures and a slow reopening. So we're still continuing to see revenue losses until we get back to what would normally have been normal capacity. And again, we're not saying that that's the goal, because we are trying to look at a new way. We are trying to look at regenerative tourism.
Hey, Pam, we're down to 1 minute. 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Gary. To close, we do have to look at new ways to bring in revenue so we can find that balance, because expenses are going to be going up in big ways. So we encourage your participation at the county council level. We're certainly there. Want to say blessings and best wishes to everybody for a wonderful new year. Let's make it a great year of rebuilding together and coming together and sharing our aloha spirit and getting things done. Look forward to talking to you again this week. Please tune in. Aloha.